This video is about solving proportions. So before we solve proportions, we need to know about a ratio. So a ratio compares two quantities. So a ratio might compare right answers to total points, or it might compare girls to boys. And there's three ways that we can write ratios. We can write it as A colon B, A to B, or the most common way and most useful way as a fraction. Remember that when we write ratios, they always need to be in reduced form. So in a first grade class, there are 6 kids coloring with red crayons, 3 kids coloring with blue crayons, 9 kids coloring with green crayons, and 6 kids coloring with purple crayons. So the first ratio that we need to create is red to green. So there's 6 kids coloring with red crayons and 9 kids coloring with green crayons. So whatever comes first, red, we're going to put in the numerator of the fraction. We're going to put 9 in the denominator, and then I reduce this to 2/3. In number 2, it's blue to total. So we know that there are 3 kids coloring with blue crayons, and then we need to add all these numbers up. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 9 is 18, plus 6 is 24. So we have 3 over 24. We can divide both of those numbers by 3, and that reduces to 1/8. And our last ratio is kids coloring with purple crayons compared to kids coloring with red crayons. So they're both 6, so we have 6 over 6, which reduces to 1 over 1. So a proportion then is 2 equivalent ratios. And when we're going to solve a proportion, we're going to use cross multiplying. If we ever get a decimal, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, which remember is 2 decimal places. So when we cross multiply, you are going to multiply the numerator of one fraction with the denominator of the other. So we have 5 times 6, and we have 10 times x. So when I multiply, I get 30 equals 10x. To get x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 10. So we get x equals 3. In number 5, we have to be careful because of this x plus 4. So anytime you see an operation in your numerator or denominator, make sure to put parentheses around it to remember that it's all grouped together so that we distribute correctly. So when I start to cross multiply, I have 10 times 4 on one side, and on the other side I have 8 times 2x plus 4. So it's important to put in the parentheses because I need to know that the 8 multiplies with both terms. So we get 40 equals 16x plus 32. So we can subtract 32 from both sides, and we get 8 equals 16x. When we divide by 16 on both sides, we get x is 1/2, which as a decimal is 0.5. So number 6, we want to do the same thing where we're going to put parentheses around the 3y plus 1, and then I'm going to cross multiply. So I have 8y is equal to 2 times the quantity 3y plus 1. So I get 8y equals, when I distribute, 6y plus 2. I can subtract 6y from both sides. So I get 2y equals 2. When we divide by 2, y equals 1. Number 7, when I cross multiply, I'm going to put parentheses around each of these quantities. So I have 4 times parentheses x minus 1 equals 3 times parentheses 4x plus 1. So I'm going to distribute the 4 on the left-hand side. I get 4x minus 4 equals, when I distribute the 3, 12x plus 3. So I can subtract 4x from both sides. I get negative 4 equals 8x plus 3. I can subtract 3 from both sides. I get negative 7 equals 8x. When we divide by negative 8, we get negative 7/8. Or as a decimal, I'm going to do negative 7 divided by 8. And I get 0.875, but remember we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, so we're going to have 0.088. So let's try two more. Number 8, when I cross multiply, remember to put parentheses around your quantities. So I have 3 times 3x minus 12 equals 9 times x minus 4. So when I distribute the 3, I get 9x minus 36 equals 9x minus 36. If I subtract 9x from both sides, the x's cancel out. I'm left with 36 equals negative 36 equals negative 36. Remember that this is a true statement, and when that happens, we say that it is infinitely many solutions. So in number 9, when I cross multiply, I have 3 times 2z equals 2 times parentheses 3z minus 3. So when I simplify this by multiplying, I get 6x equals 6x minus 6. I can subtract 6z from both sides. I get 0 equals negative 6. Remember, that's not a true statement, so when this happens, that is a no solution.